Hello friends, my name is Leigh and I create videos about photography as an art and as a lifestyle. Today is all about the Lumix G9II, which I've been fortunate enough to borrow from Lumix, carrying it around in my natural habitat here in Arizona, but also on a fantastic winter trip back in January to one of Raymond's and my favorite big cities, Chicago, Illinois. We'll get back to the G9II in Chicago, but let's take a moment to thank the sponsor of this portion of the video, Pexar by Pexar. You have seen me talk about this digital frame before, and you've probably seen it in my videos, like this one, because it lives back there on my shelves, scrolling through my photos. It is my favorite way to quickly display my own photography, but because Mother's Day is right around the corner, I want to mention the frame now because while the frame is great for photographers to show off your own art, it also is the perfect gift for parents or grandparents. Not only can you load up the frame with family photos when you set it up, you can also easily send new photos to the frame via the app, or you can add them to an SD card or a USB drive and plug it right into the frame. As a parent myself, I send photos to the digital frame that my parents have so they can see their busy grandkids. Plus, I send photos of my own adventures, which they love seeing. Every time I send a photo, I get an excited call or text from my parents asking questions about what they see. And as the parent of an 18-year-old who is planning a road trip with her friends this summer, I can't wait to see the photos from her travels pop up on my frame back there. It feels like a full circle moment. I prefer the Pexar by Pexar digital frame specifically because it is very easy to set up and it has amazing picture quality. So if you are interested in grabbing one of these digital frames for yourself or as the perfect gift for a parent or grandparent in your life, check out the link in the description of this video. In this video, I want to focus on my experience with the camera and my results, but let's address a few specs and the positioning of the camera. The G9II sits alongside Lumix's legendary GH series as flagship bodies with 4/3 sensors, the G series steering toward still photography, with the GH series geared toward video, although each crosses over generously into the territory of the other, and they share the same micro 4/3 lens mount. So we did focus on still photography in Chicago with the G9II. When we opened the G9II, we noticed something right away. This camera body is very, very, very similar to the full frame L-mount S5 II, or really the entire S5 line. By and large, if you are familiar with this camera, you're familiar with the L-mount varieties. And if you're familiar with the L-mount varieties, you're also familiar with the buttons, menus, and controls of this camera. The big difference is the lens mount and the available lenses. And it is those lenses that made me want this camera for the Chicago trip. We'll get there in just a minute though. When I requested this camera, I didn't realize just how similar it would be to the S5 series of cameras, and that's a compliment. If you've watched any of my videos about the Lumix S5, S5 II, or S1R2, you'll know that I adore that Lumix has combined ease of use and practicality with flexibility and capability. On the G9II, we already knew how to use this camera because it's practically the same shell as the S5 II. The controls, the ports, the menus, autofocus modes, and configurability, the in-body image stabilization, just like its larger lens mount siblings, and the very cool 100 megapixel high resolution mode, which we put to the test high atop Chicago in the observation deck of the Willis Tower. We spent a long time up there enjoying sunset. This was shot handheld through the window as the building was swaying. We were 103 stories up, so it was wild to feel the building swaying as we were standing up against the windows. And check out how much we can zoom into this image and still see detail. I am zoomed in at 10x, and we can see through these windows and into the office. Individual lights, tables, desks. This is wild and amazing. And zooming back out, I love this image. Because it was captured at 45 millimeters, which is equivalent to 90 millimeters in full frame terms, it's almost abstract. And this is the point I'm making. 4/3 is a smaller sensor than full frame, but what Lumix is demonstrating with this camera is that a 4/3 body and the lens choices for that format do not deny you of the features that you would expect from a current full frame camera from any number of manufacturers, including Lumix themselves. So my experience with the camera, it left nothing to be desired. I simply used the camera as I would any other. I didn't think once about the sensor size. What I did think about is the size of the lenses. They are so compact. I chose to bring the Micro Four Thirds system on the trip because the combination of lenses that we brought plus the two bodies fit into this backpack. And then walking around the city in the freezing cold, in the snow, in the wind, in and out of cabs, into museums, coffee shops, everywhere. The camera was out of the way when I wasn't using it. It was such a non-issue to have it around my neck all day long. It was the perfect system for this trip. We brought several lenses from Lumix along with an OM system lens and an M mount lens that we adapted to Micro Four Thirds. I fell deeply in love with the G series Leica 8 to 18 millimeter f2.8 to f4 lens that is in the Lumix system, and I borrowed along with the camera. But Lumix has an impressive series of Micro Four Thirds lenses with several more lenses carrying the Leica brand. They are smaller versions of the L-mount Leica lenses, complete with Leica's optics, handling, and design language, all in a smaller, lighter package. Looking at the site, Raymond was real quick to point out that there is a Leica Vario 50 to 200 millimeter f2.8 to f4 lens in stock and ready to order. It's tempting. In full frame equivalent terms, that's 100 to 400 millimeters f2.8 to f4, but it's quite compact, like the rest of the lenses in the system. This is a good time to point out that there are other 4/3 lens manufacturers, such as OM System, 7 Artisans, and others. Also, you can adapt certain other formats to Micro Four Thirds, such as like M-mount lenses, like we did. Your lens options are practically endless. One more thing I want to mention is the images themselves. The weather was quite gray when we were in Chicago, pretty much the whole time. And there's a lot of concrete and steel in the city. No matter what camera you're using, these conditions lead to pretty lackluster color images. I initially thought to go monochrome with them all, but instead I used a DxO Nik Analog Effects 7 filter on all of them for a film-like look. This is the Classic Camera 3 filter, though I made a few customizations like removing the scratches and the grain that get added with the filter. It really brought the images to life. For us, Chicago in the winter is a bold experience, and I wanted the photos to reflect a cold and muted but still striking look to match our favorite time of year in Chicago and the charm that it brings to the city. We love the city, the art, the architecture in Chicago. I could spend weeks exploring the museums alone. Oh, and a quick shout out to Central Camera, where I spent quite a long time hiding from the snow, exploring their absolute treasure trove of goodies and talking with the employees. They were awesome. And I came out with a camera strap that I initially went in for, along with a used Nikon F-mount lens that I didn't need, but I just couldn't leave without. So that was my experience with the Lumix G92. It and the OM System OM5 that we also brought, because there's two of us, they were the perfect system to bring on this trip. Sharing lenses, swapping bodies back and forth. Not once did either of us wish for anything different. I've tried a few cameras and lenses in the Micro Four Thirds ecosystem, but let me know if there's anything else that I should look into. What do you like to use? Thank you again to Pexar by Lexar for sponsoring a portion of this video. Remember, there is a link in the description of this video so that you can get one for yourself or for someone else. Thank you to Lumix for the G92 and the lens loaners. And thank you for watching.